The hit game Peak was allegedly made in just 4 weeks, and then went on to sell 5 million copies and made roughly $25 million just in the first month. Now I don't know about you, but I'd be pretty happy with those numbers. Hey everyone, I'm Phil, and I don't finish games. I normally just overscope and get burnt out, or get intimidated by all the advice saying you need like 30,000 wish lists before you can publish, so I just give up. But that all changes today. I'm limiting myself to just 4 weeks to make a game, and I'm going to release whatever I have on Steam. Obviously, $25 million is a bit unrealistic, but hearing you can have success with a game that only takes a few weeks to make really gives me hope. Plus, this way I don't have time to overthink it, and I'll actually release a game, which is something I've wanted to do my whole life. And in case you don't believe me, here's the game I end up making. Bet you didn't expect to see that so fast. I actually just wanted to show you this now, so 1, you know I actually do it, but 2, so you put up with me when it looks like this. Yeah, it takes me a second to get it figured out. But of course, to make this game in 4 weeks, we need a good plan. So here's what I got. Make a game in 4 weeks. Awesome, let's get into it. It can't be that hard, right? To get this project started, I opened up a new Unity scene, and with an empty scene comes endless possibilities. So I added a ball. Now before I get 100 comments about how I should be using Unreal or a different game engine, I only have 4 weeks. I don't have time to learn a new engine. Anyways, back to the video. I added a plane and gave the ball a rigid body, and now we have something. Not necessarily something good, but something. So the game I want to make is a classic game of pool, but with a twist. I made a game a few years ago where the pool balls shoot back at you, making pool kinda like a bullet hell. And even though I never finished it, it's still the best thing I've ever made. But I've learned a lot over the last few years, and I think I can transform this into something even better. But of course I have to start with the basics. Now I can't just copy all my previous code, since the original was a 2D game and I want this to be a 3D game. But also because my previous code was so horrendous. For example, every variable in my game that needs to be accessed by multiple objects, such as health or the current score, was stored as a player pref. Now if you don't know, player prefs are variables that persist even after you close the game, and you should use those for things like high scores and settings, not for regular variables. So I had to fix that. But after I reworked all the code, it actually gave me a pretty good start. So for day 1, I wanted to work on getting the ball rolling. Get it? I want the ball to be controlled like an Angry Bird, where you click and pull back to launch it. This went well, in that it worked, but it was hard to know where you were aiming. So I added a line renderer, and that makes it feel so much better. Now let's make it look so much better. I wanted to strike a balance between gameplay and graphics, because normally I wait till the very end to do all the graphics, and that's when I burn out. Luckily, I've been practicing my Blender skills, so I can whip up a semi-decent looking table. Okay, it sucks, but it'll get us by for now. But you know what won't get us by? These physics. Having a pool game where you can't even bounce off the walls is not good. So I spent way too much time using trial and error to get the physics feeling like a real pool table, and I think I eventually got it pretty close. Finally, I can get back to something fun. The first enemy. I want all the enemies to just be the regular pool balls, but they shoot at you. And for the one ball, I want it to be the most basic enemy. I started by making a tracking script that aims at the player. However, it does have a turning speed so you can outrun it. I then made it shoot every few seconds. For the bullets, I took notes from games like Nier and Binding of Isaac, where the enemy bullets are very obvious big red balls. This makes it so much easier to read and dodge than if we were just shooting real bullets at you. But you might notice, these bullets don't do anything yet, since we don't have health. So let's fix that. I made a very simple health tracker just to show that it works. Hey, remember, it's gotta look like this, just give it some time. But I got it working and resetting the scene when you hit 0. But it wouldn't be fun if you couldn't fight back, so I added 2 ways to kill an enemy. The first way is to hit the ball into any of the pockets, just like in regular pool. This will instantly kill the enemy. Please don't ask me how long it took to add these pockets to the table. But don't worry, if you have bad aim, I also made them break after being hit 3 times. Just still be careful, since I made the pockets do damage to you too, so if you fall into one of them, you'll respawn but you will be damaged. But that's all the basic mechanics done, so I can start making this an actual game, starting with the score. I want this to be a high score chaser kind of game. So I made every hit give you points, and for every kill it gives you a bunch of points. But I wanted to reward pocketing the ball, so doing that gives you even more points. And since only fighting one ball would be a terrible game, I set up a spawning system so that once you destroy a ball, another one pops in. Eventually the spawner will get harder as you progress, but this will do for now. But look at that, it's technically a game now. So it's time to switch gears again and focus on all the boring things, because balance.
I'm gonna breeze over this part though, since it is boring, but my god does it make such a big difference. It's amazing how just adding new models, animations, textures, particle effects, screen shake, enemy damage indicators, UI upgrades, and a game over menu really changes the whole game. Yeah, that's not that much. But look at the difference. The gameplay is exactly the same. One is just way better. This was such a slog though. Like, it took me an entire week just to do this. But man, was it worth it. And I'll definitely still have enough time to finish everything I wanted to. So after the first week, I have one enemy. Okay, I really need to buckle down and grind out some features. And what better place to start than by adding some new enemies? Starting with the 2-ball. I wanted something a little different than the 1-ball, but not too different. So this one shoots 2 balls. However, it doesn't aim at all, it just spins around. And now for the 3-ball.
And no, it doesn't just shoot 3 bullets, I'm more creative than that. This one actually shoots a heat-seeking missile that tracks the player down. The 4-ball, however, does shoot 4 bullets. Just wait till you see the 6-ball.
I did get a little creative with the 5-ball though, as it shoots mines that stay on the table for a few seconds. Now the 11 and 12 ball bring up an interesting design choice I made. In pool, there are solid and stripe balls, each using the same 7 colors. Because of this, I wanted balls of the same color to behave in a similar way. So you know if you see a purple, it's going to be a shotgun. One just shoots multiple times. And if you see a red, it's going to shoot a weird type of bullet. One tracks, one bounces. I think this makes it a lot easier to understand than if they were all completely different. Now, if you know how to count, you might have noticed I skipped a few numbers. But that's because the ones I made so far are what I classify as the easy enemies. These are the enemies that will be the most common and spawn right from the start. I don't want the first ball someone encounters to be the hardest one. So I split them up into groups, and after you kill a few enemies, the harder ones will start spawning in. But with all the easy enemies done, it's another great point to switch it up and focus on some power-ups. And of course, upgrade the graphics. Early on, I was trying to decide between a regular camera or an orthographic camera. I thought the regular one just looked a little off because of the curve with the camera so close. So I liked the orthographic view, but I thought it really took away from the 3D look, so I stuck with the regular one. Then I realized I could just move the camera away and change the field of view and all my problems would be solved. I'm such a good developer. This game is really coming together. Since this is an arcade style game, you have to have power-up drops. And of course the easiest one is a health pickup. I made it so these have a chance to drop from every destroyed enemy, but not from the pocketed ones. This makes it so you have to choose between going for a high score or going for the health drop. I think this is a fun trade-off. I made the other power-ups spawn like the other enemies, and I made 4 different types. The first one is a bomb that just clears the screen. It's pretty simple. Then I made one that makes you bigger and you do more damage, but you're a bigger target so you have to be careful. And then of course I made the opposite, where you get small and do less damage, but it's very hard to hit you. But I'm sure you'll still find a way. The last power-up is my favorite. I call it Split. This makes a clone of you that you can also control, and then whichever one gets hit first disappears without taking any damage. So yeah, it's basically Shadow Clone Jutsu. And don't worry, it does stack, so you can have as many as you want. I think this feature adds the most fun to my game, but man did it cause so many problems. But now with the power-ups added, I can add even more enemies, starting with the 9-ball. Like the 1-ball, I wanted this to be a basic enemy, but instead it shoots a laser. So it tracks you down and sends out a warning laser when it's locked on, and then it fires the real attack. The 10-ball is similar to the 2-ball, but again with lasers this time. The 15-ball might look like it doesn't have a weapon, but that's because it is the weapon. Nah, my particle skills aren't that good, so it's just a bigger bullet. The 14-ball is like the 9-ball, except it doesn't stop tracking once it starts aiming. Kinda like how the 6-ball keeps firing at you. This one's really hard, actually. The 13-ball sends out bullets that orbit around itself, which makes it tricky to hit without getting hurt. And then the 7-ball is a bit different in that its bullets heal. No, it doesn't heal you, it still hurts. But they'll aim at the enemy with the lowest health, and if it hits them, it'll heal them a little bit. And now for the moment everyone's been waiting for. The 8-ball. This one is by far the hardest enemy, as it has 4 lasers that don't stop spinning. This will divide the table into 4 sections when firing, and hopefully there aren't 2 going on at the same time. But that's all the enemies done, so I can switch to graphics again. I whipped up a quick menu that is functional, but looks a little bad. But I did add a nice transition for when you start the game that I think looks pretty good. And yeah, that's enough graphics. Time to do more fun things. I want to add an upgrade system like Vampire Survivors, where you get to choose between 3 different upgrades. I set up the menu to change the 3 options every time you open it, and then I spent way too long trying to make these cards look better. This went through many iterations, mainly because I'm bad at art. I started by trying to create icons for each one, but I gave up pretty quickly and just got some online. Bet you can't guess which one is which. Yeah, so obviously I had to fix them all. I also added some movement when you hover over each card, and that adds so much. Crazy something so simple can completely change the feel. And now with the menu looking passable, I can actually add the upgrades. Now I'm not going to go over them all since there's a few of them, but here are my favorites. Slow-mo. Gives you slow motion when aiming. Each upgrade will make the slowdown effect even greater, or it'll help it recharge faster. Bigger pockets. This gives you, well, bigger pockets. And they get pretty big until there's no bumpers at all. I actually had to remake the whole table in order to do this. One, because I needed to, but also because I needed a way to make the holes get bigger. This of course took way longer than it should have, but hopefully I'm done with that. I was not done with that. I then made the opposite upgrade, where every upgrade completely closes off one of the pockets until the table becomes a cage. And you guessed it, I had to figure out how to close each hole on the table in Blender and ended up making multiple separate objects to plug these holes. But now I think the table's finished. It was not. I also added a few upgrades that are activatable with charges. For example, a shield, where you have full immunity when it's active. There are plenty more to go over, but I'll let you discover them for yourself. I did add an EXP bar at the bottom though, so you can tell when you're about to get the next one. In total there are 12 different upgrades. I would have liked to add even more, but I really had to cut back so I had time to finish everything. But I feel pretty good getting 12 in.
Now full transparency, this is when I hit the 4-week mark. Is my game done? No. But Peak said their development was mostly done in 4 weeks, and I think all my gameplay is done, so I feel pretty good. However, since I am releasing this, I want it to be the best that it can be, so I'm going to extend my timeline a little bit. Plus, I already did like 80% of it, so how hard could the last 20% be?
In order to make the game better, I worked and reworked menus, adding movement, updating graphics. This was so boring, but necessary. I added sounds to everything. Again, super boring, but does add so much to the quality. And then I made a shop where you could customize the color of the table. But of course, I had to do more Blender work in order to have each part have an independent color. It was worth it though. I initially wanted the store to be an actual store where you get money after each run and save up to buy the colors, but I decided it would be more fun if you unlock things by getting achievements. So then I had to make a bunch of achievements, which isn't that hard until you have to make them on Steam, but I'll get to that. In the meantime, I made a settings and stats screen where you can change the volume and everything and see your career stats. Now while all these quality changes took a long time, the thing that took the most time was setting up the Steam page. Making a trailer, setting up all the images and descriptions, adding achievements with pictures for each of them. This all took so much time, and $100.
So this 4-week challenge really took 8 weeks. But guess what? You can download it right now on Steam. And just because I like you guys, it's completely free. Just promise you'll share it with a friend and we'll call it even. I really think this is a fun game, so I'd just be happy with people playing it. So go check it out and let me know what you guys think. I really enjoyed actually finishing a project for once, so I think I'm going to continue doing small games from here on out. So let me know what kind of game you'd like to see me make next, and I'll see you guys then.